I hope we did not make a big mistake by electing Talarico. Listen to this.
Is John Fetterman 2.0. When Fetterman was running in 2013 as a so-called socialist against Dr. Oz, there were plenty of problematic things that went against Fetterman. Most notably was the fact that he chased down a black man under the suspicion that black man was involved in some criminality. Where have you seen and heard that before? That is the exact same action that we would expect anywhere and everywhere in the South and in Republican areas where a white dude automatically assumes that a black dude is a criminal and threatens him with a gun. That's who John Fetterman is. And we should not be surprised that he is making all sorts of overtures and submitting wholly to the Trump agenda, because at his core, Fetterman is no different really from the vast majority of Trump voters. He's a racist through and through. And while Talarico might not be the same level of racist that Fetterman is, Talarico, by his actions, regardless of how well he quotes scripture, is cut from the same cloth. Here's what I mean. When we look at Talarico, he paints himself as some sort of Christian who can quote scripture and has progressive values and is all about taking money out of politics and helping the working class. He says all that. And at the same time, he has taken how much money from Marian Adelson? The same Marian Adelson who has been the top 3 funder of the Trump campaign. So when you have Marian Adelson, who is all about white supremacy, who is all about building a religious ethno state and funding Republican candidates who are in favor of that, and she's plunking money into Talarico's campaign, what does that tell you? Talarico is gladly taking money from Adelson and is attending events that are sponsored by AIPAC for candidates who are committed to supporting the interests of foreign governments in the Middle East. What does that tell you about Talarico? And if that doesn't convince you, think about what's happening in that campaign. In that campaign, you have political action committees launching attack ad after attack ad against Jasmine Crockett. And a lot of these attack ads have had racial undertones and overtones in them. And what has Talarico said? He's been quiet. Silence means consent, and Talarico remaining silent while all of these attack ads are going against Jasmine Crockett should tell you everything that you need to know. But wait, there's more. During the Texas debate, Talarico was asked, what would you do if articles of impeachment were drawn up against Trump? How would you vote? How would you decide on that? And he dodged the question. Don't believe me? Here's the clip.
While you have been critical of Donald Trump, you have not publicly called for impeachment. If elected to the Senate, under what specific circumstances, if any, would you support impeachment or an impeachment inquiry? And where do you draw the line? You have 60 seconds.
I think the administration has certainly committed impeachable offenses, particularly when it comes to using their public roles to enrich themselves. I will conduct myself in any impeachment proceedings in the United States Senate, just as I did in the Texas legislature. So to answer your question, Gromer, people can look at how I conducted myself in those impeachment proceedings. I will pour through the evidence. I will treat it with the utmost seriousness, and I will vote my conscience, and I will do my duty.
And I believe I heard you say something about enriching himself financially, but be specific. What's one thing you would vote to impeach?
Gromer, I'm not going to articulate articles of impeachment here at a political debate.
So in that clip, he's given a softball of a softball. The only correct answer is that if articles of impeachment are drawn up against the Trump regime and Trump himself, and it hits my desk, I'm voting to convict. I'm voting to convict. Those are the only 4 words that Talarico needed to say, but you saw him tap dance like a typical politician and avoid answering the question. You think that all of that Marian Adelson money didn't influence that answer? These are all warning signs that tell you that this guy is not a reliable candidate to put into office. Now, the argument might be, and many white liberals are making this argument, that Talarico, if Texas is to be turned blue, you need a white man to go ahead and help turn that blue. The only problem is that Texas as a state is a majority minority state. And the idea that Democrats need to be running on a platform that caters to the white vote is silly from a historical perspective. The Democrats have not won the majority white vote since the passage of the Civil Rights Act. So why are Democrats beholden to running candidates that are palatable to the white voter. Yes, I get that whites make up the majority of the population, but there's another element of this race that can't be ignored, and that is voter mobilization. How many new voters or unlikely voters are you getting into the electorate with your campaign? You think milquetoast Talarico is going to attract the brown vote or the Mexican vote or the Latino vote in general and get those people off the sidelines into the race by running a milquetoast campaign that speaks in Republican light talking points? That's going to motivate people to come off the sidelines. It's completely unrealistic. And never mind that the entire Talarico campaign is the poster child for propping up and elevating mediocre white dudes into positions of power. This is a guy that had a cup of coffee in the Texas legislature, and now he's running for statewide office as a senator. Under what criteria, under what merit is he justifying his campaign? By contrast, his Democratic opponent has excelled in the Texas state legislature, has excelled in Congress, is a civil rights attorney, and is an accomplished woman across any number of different criteria that you want to use. And side by side, there should be no comparison, but this is, again, the racism of whites in general and white liberals in particular showing up in an effort to elevate somebody that isn't quite ready for prime time. Now, I have no dog in this race. I'm in Wisconsin, so I can't vote in that election. But if I were a Texan, I'd be voting for Jasmine Crockett because she is clearly the most accomplished legislator on the Democratic side in that primary. If we're going to vote for people on the basis of merit, she's head and shoulders above Talarico from a merit perspective. But we also have to look at ideology. We are under an unprecedented assault when it comes to women's rights, when it comes to civil rights, and who better than a Black woman and civil rights attorney to take up the mantle against this regime. And yet you'll have national talking heads and liberal talking heads all flying and carrying the banner for Talarico, claiming that he is the only one that's electable, when clearly their version of reality doesn't actually speak to the Texas electorate. Talarico isn't going to win the majority white vote. He's not going to come close.
I'm sorry, y'all. I hadn't really thought about this race till people started writing and saying the things that they say. We can, for me, you can take race out of it. You can take race out of it for me. If you take race out of it, what are we going to have? What are we having left when we get done? First of all, Talarico took money from the lady, the Idelson lady. He took money from that lady. He went to New York, took money from that lady, and then now we got a softball Democrat. And I saw it last night because last night I said it. I said he seems like a very mild and meek Democrat, and he's not going to fight like Jasmine. And I hope that's not true. I hope that's not true. Okay. I hope that's not true. I hope that's not true. And somebody in this chat said blacks are waking up to being played by Democrats. Are you serious, Tree Rogie? Are you serious? You think the Republican Party is even better? Then that's just dumb. Anybody who thinks that they're not going to run into the same issues and problems in the Republican Party as the Democrat Party, you're dumb. The only difference between voting for a Republican and a Democrat is that the Republican has no intention of helping the common man in any way, shape, or form. The Republicans are all about money and politics and the rich person. The Democrats are about helping the poor, the homeless, free school, free help, Medicare, Medicaid, all of that. That's the Democrat side. The Republican side is the rich and the tax breaks. Both parties have racists in them, both parties. But I'm not going to deal with people who only deal with money and tax cuts and rich people. I'd rather be on this side dealing with these people who may be racist, but they're trying to help the common man. They're trying to help the homeless. They're trying to help the elderly. They're trying to help those people. The Republicans are not trying to help the elderly. The Republicans are not trying to help people go to school for free. The Republicans are not trying to help nobody get health care. Republicans ain't trying to help none of that. Both parties, I hear this argument all the time. Oh, you Democrats own the plantation. We would be on the plantation on the Republican side, except we wouldn't get jack shit. We wouldn't get wages raised. We wouldn't get health care. We wouldn't get free school lunches. You wouldn't get free college. You wouldn't get any of these things. Progressive tax cut. You wouldn't get jack shit over there. But over here on the Democratic side, at least I got an opportunity. I got an opportunity to get free health care, single payer health care, free college, free school lunches. Over here in the Democratic Party, at least I got a shot of getting it. Over here in the Republican Party, I don't. Both parties have racists in them. Both parties. So I don't give a fuck about whether you're racist or not. What are you trying to do for the common man? You might hate, the Democrats might hate black people, might hate white people, but they sure gonna get those programs together that help black people, that help white people, that help poor people, but the Republicans don't. That's why I stay on the Democratic side. You just dumb when you ask black people, why do they vote Democratic? You just dumb. Stop asking the dumb questions. That's why we are over on the Democratic side, because Democrats are the only one that will do anything for the common man. The Republicans don't do jack shit. They're useless. They don't stand for nothing. They don't do nothing. They definitely don't help the poor. They definitely don't help blacks. So that's my rant. But I said that I hoped Talarico would not be like Fetterman. I hope he's not like that. And he took money from Adelson. I can't pronounce her name. He took money from her. And she's an AIPAC lady. An AIPAC lady means you put Israel first. You don't put America first. That's what that means. When you go and take that AIPAC money, and he took AIPAC money, you don't put America first. You put Israel first. So now I got to worry about you. 2, he said something that resonated with me. Republican, the majority of white voters are Republican voters. Republican voters, white voters. He's not going to get the bulk of the white voters. It's going to be John Cornyn. It's going to be Paxton. He's going to get the majority white vote. And then you look at it again. A lot of Hispanic people want to be close to whiteness. So when they want to be close to whiteness, they're going to vote for the one candidate that they're familiar with, because they got a choice between this white candidate, that white candidate. And then people going to start talking about the woke shit. And then they're going to start talking about the woke shit and the gay shit and all that shit. And then they're going to pick the Republican because that's safer. See, now I ain't so sure that he can win. This is what I meant by I hope we didn't make the wrong choice, because for one, Talarico, if Talarico is just a regular plain mediocre white dude, and you have Paxton who has the experience, you have Cornyn who has the experience, who has the backing, who has the money, who has all of that. And most white people vote Republican, most Hispanic people vote Republican, and they're going to have a choice between 2 white people. They're going to pick that Republican dude. So hopefully y'all see where I'm going with this. Great. You got Talarico to beat Crockett out. But Talarico has to go up against an established white dude who has a war chest of money, who has the trust and the love of the Republican people in Texas. and he's like a Republican light. I don't know. Hopefully we didn't make a mistake, because hopefully we didn't make a mistake. As we get closer to the race, I'll make my determination as we get closer to the race as to who I believe will be the winner of that race. But not enough. Some people have come out and said some shit like, y'all made a mistake and you voted for the one that's going to go up against another white guy who has more experience, who's better, who has years of shit. Man, all I'm going to say is I'm going to be mad at you folks if Talarico loses in Texas. I'm going to be mad at you Texas people. Now, I heard that Kristi Noem got fired. Whoa! Donald Trump fired Kristi Noem. You knew that was happening. Trump don't stand on nothing. Trump don't stand on jack shit. And he fired that girl. Well, she knew she was getting fired anyway, so let's bring her out so she speak. She got fired right after this.
Taking him to jail because he had a warrant outside the city of Detroit. The second one was a traffic reader was asking Border Patrol to come assist him.
Oh, shoot.
Most recently, they just suspended both officers for 30 days without pay.
The Border Patrol?
No, Detroit
those
police.
officers in Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit
Okay.
police. So the one incident was the female of the house called because the husband was trying to break into the house. When the officers got there, he had a bad passport and a bad social security card. So they called Border Patrol for assistance. They ended up taking him to jail because he had a warrant outside the city of Detroit. The second one was a traffic stop. The fingerprint reader wasn't working, so they called for them to bring
Officers to still
See,
be.
she catching hell all over.
That's one.
And you know
need
what?
help.
She had an impossible job. She had an impossible job. She could have been a decent human being. Instead of being a monster, she could have been a decent human being. If she was a decent human being, she could have probably kept her job. But she wasn't a decent human being. And she wanted to go the rough route, on top of the fact that she's corrupt. She's corrupt, and they just, figured out that she's been getting, the contracts that people get for the government. She's been making sure that her family and her friends get those contracts. Okay. She's been making sure that they get those contracts. So she's not all that innocent. She's a monster just like the rest of them. If she would have been a decent human being, she would have been okay. But you can't be a decent human being and be in the cabinet of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is not a decent human being. So when you're not a decent human being, you're going to get your dome busted a couple times. And so she's out here trying to
We have
defend herself.
CBP there, of course, because of all the travel back and forth and individuals. CBP is the largest law enforcement agency that we have, one of the largest in the country, and it does all traveler information internationally. And so I'm sure that you're interacting with them quite often. So we don't, as far as targeted operations, you may see a presence in Hawaii if we know specific individuals there. And we are tracking and have signed security agreements with other countries. I think since I've been Homeland Security Secretary, we've signed 27 different security agreements with other countries to share information with us. If they have a dangerous individual that they think maybe has traveled into the United States, we will share those databases with each other. They share theirs with us so that we know when some of these individuals are coming into the country. And that may be, I'd say, the vast majority of the interactions you'll see in Hawaii. If you've got some suggestions for us or experience, I'd sure love to hear it.
Well, definitely to Mahalo.
Mahalo. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jeff Wader. I'm the proud president of the Rochester Police Locust Club, located between Buffalo and Syracuse. And just a shameless plug, go Bills.
Yeah, that's right. Good.
So I used to have, my T of O is 728 officers.
Okay.
I'm currently down to 594. And I had two more come in the other day that they're retiring. And we have a very, very difficult time retaining our members, but also hiring. And I know this is a issue throughout the country, especially in larger communities.
I couldn't figure out where she had gotten fired at. She got fired on here. Says the current, he said, I'm pleased to announce the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Effective March 31st. The current secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border. So if she done had spectacular and amazing results, then why is she getting fired? Why is she getting fired? She will be moving to be special envoy for the shield. What is it? For the Shield of the Americans. Our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere, we are announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. That's kind of fucked up. You just announced it in a True Social post that she fired. The woman is fired. Why did you fire her if she is so good and fantastic and lovely and she does her job and she knows how to do her job and all that good stuff? Why did you fire her? I heard he was calling the Congress all day trying to figure out, should we fire her or should we not? Calling the Republicans to find out, should I fire her or should I not fire her? Well, apparently he made the decision. He made the decision at a quarter to about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. He made the decision to fire her. Okay, so she's out of there. Well, she didn't handle Minneapolis very well. She handled Minneapolis terribly. Well, not to mention the fact that she came out and she lied when she said it. She lied when she came out and said that stuff about good and pretty. And everybody saw with their own eyes what happened. So, and she lied straight to the camera, X, Y, and Z. So, you know, this is what happens. And on top of the fact that she got to worry about being impeached. So don't go to sleep like you ain't got no problem, young lady. Don't go to sleep because they finna impeach your ass.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Yeah, she was fired. Why would they move her to another space? They wouldn't, if she's so outstanding and she's amazing. I just said that the president was calling the Congress to ask them, should he fire Kristi Noem? Should he not fire Kristi Noem? He been go look at Aaron Parnas. He got the scoop on it. He said that he's been calling the Congress to ask, should I fire or not?
Fundamentally, politics is about the management of public money. How do the people who are entrusted with serving in the House, in the Senate, and within an administration prioritize the expenditure of taxpayer dollars? And our view as Democrats is that taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for the American people. In an environment where the cost of living is way too high, which is why Democrats are going to continue to focus on driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken healthcare system, and making sure that people in this country who work hard and play by the rules aren't simply surviving, but they can thrive. Because far too many people in this country are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. One of the challenges that we have in this country is that Republicans have decided to manage the public's money recklessly. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make your life more affordable. Instead, Republicans have decided to actually use it to enact massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. That's what the one big ugly bill was all about. Republicans have decided to use taxpayer dollars to create a $75 billion slush fund to unleash mass and poorly trained, out of control ICE agents on American communities, brutalizing and in some cases killing American citizens and violently targeting law-abiding immigrant families.
Wait a minute, we got to make this clear. Hakeem did not take money from Epstein. That's not what he did. And he never said he did, and it never even happened like that. There's PACs that raise money. PACs that raise money reached out to Epstein, and Hakeem just happened to be a part of one of those PACs that was in the group to get fundraising money. Hakeem never reached, and Hakeem's PAC in representation of Hakeem, they solicited money from Epstein, but he never received money from Epstein, just a pact. And some people didn't. They may have reached out for fundraising money. That's just like somebody asking me for money. I look at them like they was crazy. No, hell no, I ain't giving you no money. You ain't finna do what I want to do. So it was the same thing. No, he didn't receive money. Stop lying. Y'all be killing me when y'all just be saying shit, facts. It's not facts.
That's how Republicans have chosen to use the taxpayer dollars of the American people to manage public money. And now, of course, we've seen Republicans, led by Donald Trump, plunging America into another endless conflict in the Middle East, spending billions of dollars to bomb Iran. But they can't find a dime to make it more affordable for the American people to go see a doctor when they need one. Can't find a dime to make it easier for Americans who are working hard to purchase their first home. And they can't find a dime to lower the grocery bills of the American people. And instead, of course, the reckless Trump tariffs.
Well, they do. The Jewish people are maybe not Jewish people, Israel. Israel, yeah, because I believe that's how it is. It's not America first. Because when you're giving money to a country, why did we give Israel like $18 billion? Why did we give them $18 billion? Just out of the goodness of our heart. Do they bring money back to us? Do they give us money like that? I don't understand why we gave them $18 billion. But that's neither here nor there. I don't give a fuck. I don't know nobody from Israel. I used to date somebody that was from Israel, but that's about it. I don't give a fuck one way or the other about Israel. I'm just saying I care about America first. We give them money, and there was no reason for us to continue to give them money, and that's not America first. So people have legitimate gripes when they say, why are we giving money to other countries and we can't afford health care? We can't afford free school lunches. We can't afford free college for our people, so we can raise some of us out of the gutter, raise some of the poor people out of the poverty that we have. Why not help your country first? So he's got a point. I don't care what you say, he's got a point. We should be coming first. Now we got a war. How many of y'all's gas done went up? I noticed my gas done went up 30 goddamn cents since this weekend. 30 cents since this weekend. That's wild. And things are going to continue to go up because of this war. Shit. Now we in it. And everybody is happy. Oh shit, I've been crying about my bills, my rent, my mortgage, and everybody happy. You either pissed off that we went to the war, or you so happy that Trump went to a war. Fuck you. You just raised all of our prices. You just made it even worse for us going to war. You made it worse for us going to war.
Have increased costs on everyday Americans by thousands of dollars per year. Democrats are committed. This is the fundamental fight at this moment to making sure that we jealously guard the resources of the American people and we use it to make life better for everyday Americans, not actually make things worse, which is what Donald Trump and the Republicans have done. Questions?
Mr. Leader.
Hi, Kristi Noem.
Thank you. You served with Mark Wayne Mullen in the House of Representatives. He's been in the Senate for a couple of years now. He is somebody who's tight with the president. Is this an upgrade, in your opinion?
Well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it, and we'll see what he has to say when and if they're.
What was your impression of serving with him in the House? Did you
I don't have any comment right now on what's to come. Let's focus on what's taking place right now. Kristi Noem is gone. Good riddance. She was a disaster, and House Democrats made something very clear several weeks ago. We said either Kristi Noem is fired,
Yeah,
or she's going to be
Does
impeached.
that change the ICE conversation?
And
Does that
Kristi
open the door to DHS now?
Kristi Noem has been fired, consistent with what we have demanded on behalf of the American people.
right.
But let me also make clear, a change in personnel is not sufficient. We need a change in policy.
Yeah.
And that has to be bold, dramatic, transformational,
Right.
and meaningful. And we've laid out 10 different demands, standing on the side of.
Somebody in the audience say, we're going to have a problem. Wait a minute. When you go to war, war pushes up the gas price, the food prices, shipping prices, governmental prices. Everything is going to go up because we're in the war. Oil fields may shut down. They done closed the strait that Hormuz, how you say it? Hormuz Strait. They're trying to close that Hormuz Strait, or they closed it, which means gas is going to start skyrocketing. The groceries, Amazon deliveries, airline tickets, all this shit is going to get touched by it. Are you crazy? Shit don't go down, shit go up. Okay? Shit is going to go up. We in it right now. All kinds of stuff. Trade routes going to be rerouted. Government is going to start spending more money on weapons, troops. Come on now. We in it. And we finna go through it. Because everything is about to go up. No, I don't do much research. I don't do no research. I don't know nothing.
Of the American people, including but not limited to judicial warrants, a ban on racial profiling, a prohibition on ICE targeting sensitive locations like schools, hospitals, polling sites, and houses of worship, a requirement that ICE agents are actually vetted through criminal background checks and actually trained, the implementation of a prohibition on the excessive use of force, which we've seen horrifically been unleashed on the American people, and of course, a requirement that ICE agents who break the law can be criminally investigated by state and local authorities. These are the type of policy changes that are going to be necessary to move us forward to ensure that ICE actually conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country.
What we're going to do is we're going to look at the gas prices. Y'all, if anybody remember when they got gas last, did anybody get gas this weekend? So if you got gas this weekend, let's see how fast your gas price go up. Let's see. That's the first thing that starts to skyrocket. Okay? That's the first thing that goes high. Within a matter of days, that's the first thing, gas prices. Then groceries start to change. Airline traveling start to change. Trucking routes and shit start to change, get shorter, get longer, whatever. Fuel start to go higher, overseas, across state line. Electronics start getting higher, clothes start getting higher. Let's see, what was the price on Saturday for gas and what's the price today? I bet you there's a difference. Because we at war.
That's our fundamental demand. Every other law enforcement agency in the country. So, of course, this change in personnel is welcome. Kristi Noem is a disgrace. And we made clear what was going to happen. One way or the other.
Why y'all keep saying things about gas prices and Biden? President don't influence gas prices. Events and things outside of his control control gas prices. He ain't in control of gas prices. He took us to war. That changed the gas price. Not the fact that he was president. What don't y'all get? When he say gas is lower, he ain't got a fucking thing to do with gas. Unless he go to war. Unless he influenced the gas market somehow, some way in which he don't. That's wild. Some of y'all just dumb. I don't get it. What kind of gas price did you have last Friday? And what kind of gas price do you got today?
Could happen the easy way or the hard way. He's chosen the easy way. But now we still have work that needs to be done in terms of the policy changes.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Congressman Tony Gonzalez said yesterday on a podcast that he did have an affair with a late staffer who later died by suicide. At this point, would you support expulsion for Congressman Gonzalez now that he's admitted that?
He's violated the laws. If an expulsion resolution were presented before the House of Representatives, I would, of course, support it.
Would House Democrats investigate Kristi Noem as an ex-cabinet secretary?
We haven't had that conversation yet. But what we do know, as was gloriously exposed by Congressman Joe Neguse, she's a living, breathing article of impeachment in terms of the abuse of power and the corruption that Kristi Noem has engaged in. And we need to make sure that every single taxpayer dollar is accounted for, that she was allowed to brazenly abuse, if not personally benefit from. And so there will be continuing efforts led by Benny.
And remember what I said earlier. Kristi Noem had relatives benefit from her getting the job. She had relatives and friends get contracts, were awarded contracts, government contracts for work once she became the secretary. So she took advantage of her job as the secretary, DHS. She took advantage of that, and she got her family and her friends. They all profited off of that. Just like Trump is having his friends and having his family and his sons and his daughter-in-law and all that other good stuff, having them profit from him being in the White House and him profiting from the White House. Kristi Noem had her family and friends profiting from DHS and contracts over there. So we're fine. So she got fired. It just is what it is.
Thompson and Robert Garcia and Jamie Raskin and members of those committees to make sure that we are looking out for the appropriate expenditure of taxpayer dollars. And wherever that leads, it leads.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. After votes today, you all will go on a week-long recess. Can you provide any visibility to the American people about where the negotiation stands? Republicans and the White House continue to say that they've moved on some of the demands.
Wait a minute, hold on. Every time I tell you something about a corrupt politician that's a Republican, you guys always talk about whataboutism. You don't have any proof that anybody got rich through nefarious means in Congress. Stop saying talking like it's fact. Yesterday, Kristi Noem was on the or 2 days ago, she was on the hot seat, and they had the facts on her, including the first person that had the facts on her about her enriching her family and herself was the Republican Kennedy dude. The Republican Kennedy, Senator Kennedy is the first one Republican came up and said, you got your family and your friends getting contracts from the government. So shut your ass up. Ain't nobody talking about nobody else but her enriching herself. And she should have been fired because of that alone. You go back and look and listen to the Republican. He was one of the first ones to talk to her and said, you got rich, your family got rich, or your family got contracts. You spent 200-something million on a plane that only you ride around in with a bed in there. We ain't talking about, y'all need to stay on fucking focus. Ain't nobody talking about no damn Hunter laptop. Don't nobody give a fuck about no Hunter Biden laptop. That's your problem. You don't know how to fucking stay on task. Stay on fucking task. We in the middle of a war. Shut the fuck up about damn Hunter Biden laptop. Don't nobody give a damn about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden can stroke out for all I care. Shut your ass up. What the hell you talking about? Hunter Biden.
That you have made. However, right now it just seems to be a debate between, you say that they haven't moved enough. They say we're moving in their direction. What can you say to the American people over the next?
Yeah, and you notice that none of them people done went to jail? Goofy. You notice that Hunter Biden, that Joe Biden ain't went to prison. You notice that he ain't been charged with nothing. Do you notice that he hasn't been charged with anything? You notice that he hasn't been indicted for anything? You notice any of that, right? So you know that he's not guilty of it, right? Because otherwise your petty ass president would have been done, put him in jail, right? You do know that, right?
Week or so, what they can expect while you all are out.
Well, it's unfortunate that the Trump administration and Republicans have decided that they would rather shut down FEMA, shut down the Coast Guard, and shut down TSA than dramatically reform ICE and get ICE under control, which is what the American people want to see happen. And this is a step in the direction of acknowledging that things at the Department of Homeland Security were broken.
That's my point exactly, Goofy. How many people did Donald Trump lock up? How many people? Did he lock up Hillary? No, because there ain't no evidence to lock her up. Did he lock up Bill Clinton? No, because there ain't no evidence to lock him up. Did he lock up Obama? No, because there ain't no evidence to lock him up. Come on, you need to follow the bouncing ball. But you sound dumb. Boy, some of y'all just retarded on the bullshit. Just stop being on the bullshit. We're talking about moving the country forward. We ain't talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. Don't nobody care about that. Don't nobody care about none of that. We talking about moving the country forward. We in the middle of war. You over here talking to me about fucking Hunter Biden laptop. Shut your ass up. No, ain't nobody reasoning with dumbass people. Your IQ is like a 10.
A corrupt political hack who was running DHS. Shame on every Republican senator who put her in that position when they knew she was unqualified. Now, in terms of the negotiation, we remain ready, willing, and able to talk with anyone, anytime, any place in a position of significance within the administration, if they are prepared to make sure that ICE conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country and stops brutalizing and killing American citizens and law-abiding immigrant families.
Really quickly, the last time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what is his job, because I don't never see him do nothing. What does he do? He don't have no job unless he's in the majority. So, I get that he bring bills to the floor. I get all of that. But what else does he do? I don't know. I don't get what he does. He does a press conference every day. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with this man right here. I don't know what he does. I mean, he's waiting to take his spot. And we got this markup. This markup was a very interesting thing today. A very interesting show today.
Committee will come to order without objection. The chair is authorized to declare recess at any time pursuant to committee rule 2.
Y'all know I love me some Jim Jordan. Although he's an asshole, although he ain't on my team, Republican he's an asshole. But see, I'm partial to assholes. So, even though he's a Republican, right?
2 House Rule 11, Clause 2. Chairman may postpone further proceedings today on the question of approving any measure or matter or adopting an amendment for which a recorded vote is ordered. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
No, Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem was not doing a decent job. She had 2-3 people die under her watch. So if she had 2-3 people die under her watch, she wasn't doing a decent job. Okay. Obama, of course, had plenty of people deported under his name. Obama had plenty of people. He was called the deporter in chief. but they did it to the point where they didn't get people killed every day of the week, back to back. Obama had 58 people killed under 8 years of him being a president. 8 years on being under as his president. 8 years. Not 30 something under 1 year under this President Trump. Obviously, they're doing something wrong if you 40 people dying under your watch in 1 year. Okay, something is wrong. So people keep bringing up Obama deported X, Y, and Z. Yes, he did, but it was 60 people. I'm going to round it up to 60. He had 60 people die under his watch over 8 years, over a period of 8 years. This president done had 40 people die under his watch in 1 year. Stop it. There is no comparison. Obviously, ICE is doing something wrong. Okay. And the majority of them, a lot of them were American citizens. Okay. Stop it. There's no comparison.
Pursuant to notice, I call up HR 7640, the Shutdown Sanctuary Policies Act, for purposes of markup, and move that the committee report it favorably to the House. The clerk will report the bill.
HR 76.
Without objection.
Obama had authorization, prior authorization for what he did. People keep saying he didn't have the authorization. Yes, he did. And here's how. You can authorize, Congress can authorize war in year 2020. And if Obama goes to war in year 2023, he can fight that war underneath that 2020 authorization of war. Okay? So Obama acted under those prior authorizations of war. Yes, he did. Go look it up. I hate when y'all do that. I hate when y'all do that. Just go look it up. Don't believe nothing I say. Just go look it up.
Action, the bill be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. The chair now recognizes, before I recognize the gentleman, I want to recognize our sheriffs who are and law enforcement personnel are here today. Thank you so much. And from the great state of Maryland, thank you for being here today. I know you're concerned about this issue. And now I want to recognize the sponsor of the legislation, the gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as you've noted, the sheriffs are here today, not only in support of this bill, but also in opposition to the state's announcement that it will no longer enter into 287G cooperative agreements with the federal government, which is what this bill is about. Yesterday, DHS Secretary Noem testified that in its first year, the Trump administration has deported more than 500,000 illegal aliens with criminal records. And in the same year, we've seen record drops in crime across our country, including the lowest homicide rate in 125 years. It turns out that when you remove 500,000 criminals from our streets, crime goes down. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, but you didn't take 500,000 criminals off the street. You just got the ones that were criminals to go inside. You didn't get them off the street. Let's be clear. They didn't either want to be deported, or they didn't want to go to CPAC, or they didn't want to do any of the X, Y, and Z. It ain't got nothing to do with you clearing any kind of record. Let's be clear. That's nothing to do with the illegal aliens. That's what this administration wants you to believe, but that ain't got nothing to do. The streets got cleared because y'all was sending regular folks overseas. Y'all was sending regular folks to get dirt naps. So don't think it was because they got rid of criminals. It ain't that many illegal criminals here. But they got y'all believing that shit. I don't believe the shit. Every time they speak, they lie.
But not if the Democrats had their way. As the chairman said yesterday, 1/3
Yeah,
of the
I'm dumb,
American
Winter. I'm real
population
dumb.
lives in so-called
I'm real dumb.
sanctuary jurisdictions controlled by the Democrats.
But you're on my channel calling me dumb. That's why you're dumb. Yeah, that don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. I know. Think about it. Think about it. Goofy. They keep telling you that it's illegal aliens that are doing the crime. Illegal aliens ain't doing the crime. They're not doing the crime as much as Americans are doing the crime. And Americans just stopped doing the crime because you guys are sending them to CPAC. You guys are putting their ass in jail. They sitting down. Regular American criminals are sitting down. That's why you don't see crime out in the streets that much, because American criminals are sitting down. You're not catching illegal criminals because there's not that many. It's American criminals sitting down. Now, goofies, figure it out.
Which forbid law enforcement from cooperating with federal authorities. These policies specifically protect illegal aliens who have criminal records, who are taken into custody by local law enforcement, from being turned over to federal authorities for deportation. Instead, the Democrats release them back into our communities. It should come as no surprise that when the president put the proposition to them that the first responsibility of the government should be to protect American citizens and not illegal aliens, the Democrats just glared back at him. The Angel families who visited us yesterday were heartbreaking, silent testimony to the human toll the Democrats' open border policies have taken on American families. In my congressional district in rural California, every county sheriff wants to cooperate with federal authorities to remove illegal aliens from their communities.
Right.
In fact, last year, the Tulare County Sheriff, who's in the next district over from mine, testified to our subcommittee that half of the crimes that his department deals with are being committed by illegal aliens. But state law forbids local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE in any way. Meanwhile, the federal...
See, the problem is you got a lot of goofies who think because they came across the border, that's a crime. That's such a crime. So every time they say illegal aliens who commit crime, you automatically go to illegal aliens being criminals. Illegal aliens ain't trying to be criminals. They trying to work, stay here, earn some money, do what they got to do. Criminals are going to be criminals. There's always criminals everywhere. Criminals as American people and criminals as illegal alien. But it's a proportion of them that is just a smaller proportion, way smaller than the American criminals. Okay? And the American criminals are staying out of y'all way. That's why the crime has went down. It had nothing to do with y'all finding illegal aliens. That's the point. It's not because they're finding illegal aliens. They just got goofies like you who believe in that. That's all.
The federal government sends millions of dollars for federal law enforcement purposes to the state of California that refuses to enforce federal law. HR 7640 is a game changer. It preempts sanctuary laws that forbid law enforcement officers from cooperating with federal immigration authorities. It allows local jurisdictions to enter into agreements directly with the federal government to enforce immigration law. It protects law enforcement.
No, it ain't a matter of what I think. It's a matter of what I know. I talk to criminals. I talk to criminals. And this is what they say. And what I say is what they say. Okay? They sitting down. They just sitting down because they understand what's going on. They understand what's going on. You think criminals don't know how to get out of the way? You know, you don't think you see military coming down your street in your town, all around the corner. You think I'm finna go and commit a crime? Reason why crime is down is because they in the house. Regular criminals are in the house. And it's not that many illegal criminals. Goofy, just goofy.
Enforcement officers who cooperate from ICE from being sued or fined for upholding the law. It allows victims of criminal illegals released by sanctuary jurisdictions to sue them for damages caused by these releases. And it takes the federal law enforcement funds away from sanctuary jurisdictions and gives these funds instead to those jurisdictions who are actually enforcing federal law. The chairman's pointed out that 11 states have declared themselves separate from federal law. Ironically, that's the same number of states in the old Confederacy. They both revived the discredited doctrine of nullification that we thought had died with the Confederacy. The notion that a state can simply ignore or nullify a federal law that it doesn't like. That notion is fatal to a federal republic like ours. It is time to bury that doctrine once and for all. To the sheriffs and deputies and police officers who've been forced by sanctuary laws to endanger their citizens by releasing dangerous criminals back into their communities, this bill is for you. To the Angel families who have lost loved ones because sanctuary jurisdictions deliberately...
See, and then now it's time to hit all the heartstrings. Let's hit all the heartstrings. Let's hit all of the feelings and the heartstrings and X, Y, and Z. Oh yeah, I meant to say this. The reason why you understand why our gas is going to go up, or our gas has gone up, is because Iran, they closed the Strait of Hormuz. It was called the Strait of Hormuz. They effectively shut it down. They didn't physically shut it down, but Iran has been attacking ships and whatever vessels go through to try to go through that strait. Iran has been attacking those ships. And if they attack those ships, you're definitely not going to get no oil. They've been struck by missiles and drones and everything else. That the Strait of Hormuz runs through Iran. That Strait of Hormuz supplies about 20% of the oil, of the world's oil. 20% goes through that strait in Iran. So if Iran closes that strait, which they effectively have done, that's why gas prices have gone up, and they're going to continue to go up because that strait is closed. Okay? Shipping costs, global costs, gasoline prices go high, everything else. It's not closed specifically, but if you tell me I'm going to blow your ship up if you try to come through here, that's what Iran is saying to anybody who wants to come through. I'm going to blow your ship up. They're not going to let you through, and you're not going to go there. So it is what it is. Yeah. And Stephen Miller released a memo and told Kristi Noem that you have a quota to get aliens. You got a quota to get. We want to be on track to get 3 million. That's why they're just grabbing anybody off the street.
Set loose the monsters that then killed or assaulted or raped or robbed or maimed or injured your loved ones. This bill is for you. To Americans across the country who found yourselves at the mercy of criminal gangs and thugs imported by the Democrats' open border policies, this bill is for you. I hope Americans will pay attention to the debate that's about to unfold. If you watch, it will become crystal clear that the Democrats are actively fighting to return criminals into our communities rather than to deport them as the law requires and as common sense commands. This specifically applies to illegal aliens.
See, here's the problem. You're labeling all illegal immigrants, or you're labeling all undocumented aliens as criminals. Undocumented aliens as criminals. That's the problem we Democrats have. You labeling them undocumented aliens criminals, when not all of them are criminals. But you have goofies like people in the chat who think just because you came over here that you're a criminal. So therefore, that's why you keep saying criminals instead of saying undocumented. Crossing the border is not a crime that's worthy of you getting sent to CPAC, retardation.
Who not only have no right to be here, but to a specific class of illegal aliens, those who have been arrested or convicted or committed of other crimes and are already in the custody of law enforcement. Should they be released back into our streets? Or should they be deported back to their own countries and never be allowed to menace ours again?
So, oh my
That
God!
is the question
Oh
before
my
us.
God!
With that, Mr.
They're a menace to our society. There might be 10 fucking illegal aliens, undocumented alien. It might be 10, and maybe out of 10, there might not be any that are dangerous. Out of 20, maybe out of 50, it might be one that might be dangerous. That's the problem. They've got you all thinking that all of them are dangerous when all of them are not dangerous. All of them are just, most of them are hardworking human beings. Go talk to the angel mom. I don't care about the angel moms. I don't care about that. Talk to me about the kids that get shot up in the schools by the white Christian nationalist dudes. Talk to me about that. Then once you talk to me about that, you talk to me about getting guns under control, then I'll deal with your angels. Otherwise, I'm not dealing with your angels. Fuck your angels. I'm not dealing with them until you tell me how we're going to stop killing kids in schools. When you tell me how we're going to do that, when you tell me how we're going to get rid of guns off the streets that are killing our kids in school, when you talk to me about that, then I'll talk to you. Otherwise, I ain't talking to you.
Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The ranking member is now recognized for an opening statement.
And thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to our sheriff.
They've been white grannies.
And other law enforcement who've joined us here today.
That's why. No, I'm not insane. They're not transgender either. Don't lie. And even if they are transgender, they're white males transgender. So I should be afraid of white men. Jesus, I should be afraid of white men because they're the bulk of the killers in this country. That's who we should. You know what? I'm going to make it a campaign. I'm a campaign to say that all white men are dangerous killers on the loose. That's how fucking stupid that sounds to me. That's how fucking stupid that sounds. To me, that's how fucking stupid that sounds.
The gentleman.
It ain't no more black on black crime. It's more white people, more white men who kill more people in this country than anybody else. I'm not going to talk to y'all because y'all don't know facts. So y'all don't read facts. You don't study facts. You don't do nothing. So you don't know. So please go to the FBI website and look at the FBI statistics. Don't talk to me. Talk to the FBI website.
Someone from California rushed to give President Trump credit for dramatic decreases in violent crime that have been taking place over the last several years, long before he ever got to office. Beginning in 2022, under President Biden, the country experienced a major reduction in homicide and violent crime. That trend continued in 2023, 2024. By 2024, nationwide murders had dropped by 26% since the peak in 2020, with 2024 having the largest one-year drop in murders ever recorded in American history. Yeah. On the day that Trump was inaugurated, crime had fallen to 60-year lows. So it's true that the downward trend has continued.
Jamie, you need to say that to these goofies in the chat. You need to talk to them about that. Because they don't understand. They just don't get it. They don't get it.
Despite the fact that the Trump administration, as everybody on this committee knows, cut hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to state and local law enforcement and victims organizations as soon as they got into office. That was the first thing that we were fighting about in this committee when Doge and Elon Musk cut hundreds of millions of dollars in grants that had already been slated for our communities and for our state governments. But look, let's get to the question of the bill before us today.
Right. Get to the bill.
Now, we often say in our committee that to believe in the Constitution is to respect it and defend it, even if it gets in the way of your momentary political passions or your party conference's policy agenda. So who will stand up for the 10th Amendment? The right of the people in our state and local governments not to be conscripted and coerced into service and commandeered by the federal government to implement federal policies chosen at a different level of government. You might love what ICE has been doing in Minneapolis. You might hate it. You might love the idea of sanctuary cities, or you might hate it. But regardless, this bill goes way beyond sanctuary cities. This bill is a full-blown assault on the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. It's an attempt to force every state and local government in America to turn every sheriff, police officer, and other public employee, not just for the question of detainers in sanctuary, which is what our friends keep talking about, but for every other aspect of immigration law, into an agent of the federal government and of this administration's basically incompetent and dangerous immigration operations. It's not enough for our colleagues that DHS now has more than 80,000 police officers of its own, more than the number of officers in New York, Chicago.
No, the more people they kill and the more people do homicides is white people. White males, as a matter of fact. They do more murders than black people. More murders than most people. No, go back and look at the FBI statistics. Go back and look.
Chicago, LA, Houston, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Las Vegas, and Dallas combined, or that it is a larger annual budget than 150 nations on earth. They now also want to force every local, state, and police officer in America essentially to be deputized federal law enforcement agents with respect to immigration, to participate in their operations and to follow their policy orders. Now, fortunately, we don't have to argue this from the beginning because there's a Supreme Court decision right on point from 1997, Prince versus United States, which I'm sure our friends in law enforcement know well, where Justice Scalia decided for the court that the federal government may not compel state and local governments and state and local officials to enforce and implement federal laws. The decision struck down the provision of the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act that required local law enforcement, like sheriffs and police chiefs, to cooperate with the ATF and the FBI to conduct violent criminal, fugitive, and illegal alien background checks on all handgun purchasers in America. The purpose of the legislation was, of course, to prevent the violence and the bloodshed of innocent Americans caused by hundreds of thousands or millions of unqualified applicants obtaining a firearm. So there was a very clear public safety rationale. But the Supreme Court held that despite the fact that it actually would improve public safety and reduce violence, congressional commandeering of state and local officials, state and local governments, and state and local taxpayer resources violates the 10th Amendment principles of federalism and dual sovereignty, the separate political sovereignty of the states and local governments. The Constitution simply does not grant Congress the power to force state executives to administer federal programs, even for a paramount or excellent public safety purpose, like saving lives of the people, as the Brady background check indisputably did, and as the Supreme Court accepted for the sake of arguments, but they said it violated the Constitution. It was Sheriffs Jay Prince of Montana and Richard Mack of Arizona who challenged the federal requirement, arguing that it unconstitutionally compelled them as local law enforcement officials to implement federal laws. The court found that coercing state officials and local officials to enforce federal laws violates the sovereignty and the integrity of state and local governments under the 10th Amendment, blurring the critical lines of political accountability in the American federalist system and conscripting state and local taxpayers to subsidize federal priorities with their limited local tax dollars and revenue. So the bill before us today would do the exact same thing. It would prohibit states from having any laws or policies that set any limits on how much time and resources state and local officers would spend on federal immigration law enforcement. What could be a greater assault on state and local government than saying that these local officials can be conscripted and then supervised by the federal government, which is going to immunize them now for any lawsuits that might ensue, to do the bidding of the federal government. So they also throw in another cardinal unconstitutional feature, a Godfather offer, what the Supreme Court has called an unconstitutional condition, here an effort to condition a community or a state's receipt of federal funding on the surrender of a 10th Amendment power. In another decision, National Federation of Independent Business versus Sebelius, the court noted that the 10th Amendment's prohibition holds true whether Congress directly commands a state to regulate or indirectly coerces a state to adopt a federal regulatory system as its own. This bill would defund state and local police departments simply because they dare to require that all of their employees' time be used to be working on state and local laws rather than federal laws. So, my friends, again, let's not confuse the policy question from the constitutional question. I would hope that everybody here on the committee who believes in the 10th Amendment, as well as the Second Amendment implicated in the Prince case, would stand up for these constitutional principles. And I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California to offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Without objection, the amendment in the nature of a substitute will be considered as read and shall be considered as base text for the purposes of amendment. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, in response to the ranking member who wants to conflate this bill with previous laws that the Supreme Court have held unconstitutional, simply it's not the case. This bill does not command law enforcement officers to do anything or take part in any federal activity, such as conducting background checks as in Prince versus the United States. It does not compel them to enact or enforce a federal regulatory program, such as taking title of nuclear waste as in New York versus United States. And it does not dictate what a state legislature may and may not do, such as prohibiting state authorization of sporting gambling, as was clear in Murphy versus a National Collegiate Athletic Association. This bill does not issue an order directly to state and local jurisdictions. Instead, the bill simply says that if you restrict or prohibit the federal government from doing its job to enforce federal immigration law, you cannot receive related federal grant funding. There's no compulsion, no command, no commandeering. In fact, it is sanctuary states and cities that want to commandeer federal law by undermining the federal government's immigration enforcement every step of the way. This bill's careful structure is permissible under Supreme Court precedent, and I urge my colleagues to reject this false argument. And now to the amendment in the nature of a substitute. It simply makes a small technical change to the short title and clarifies that sanctuary city victims or their families may pursue a civil action against jurisdictions for harm that occurred before the enactment of this act. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition? Gentlelady from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been 1 month since we saw DHS officials kill 2 people in cold blood in Minnesota. We've seen countless U.S. citizens detained and beaten for exercising their First Amendment rights. We've seen ICE agents break down doors of U.S. citizens without a warrant in violation of the Fourth Amendment. And we just found out ICE agents admitted to killing another U.S. citizen in San Antonio last year. But instead of addressing these egregious abuses or making sure that every federal officer acts in accordance with the Fourth Amendment, we're taking up this bill to force every single state and local law enforcement agency to act as immigration agents. And let's be clear, that is what we're doing by withholding these federal funds if you don't like the policies that state legislatures implement. And let's be clear, this bill is an even more radical version of the bill the majority moved 9 years ago. Republicans passed their big bad betrayal bill, giving DHS $175 billion to conduct immigration enforcement. DHS has plenty of money to hire all the new immigration enforcement agents they want, but Republicans now want to force state and local authorities to join them in their lawless actions. So let's talk about what this bill does, because this is not merely about allowing cooperation. This bill would coerce state and local law enforcement to help them round up immigrants by threatening to cut off law enforcement funds if they do not comply, even though multiple courts have held that this is illegal, and numerous research studies and law enforcement officials have confirmed that keeping the longstanding distinction between federal immigration and local law enforcement helps keep communities safer. Moreover, detainers raise serious concerns as they are not orders from judges, and they often don't have sufficient probable cause. They are simply requests for local law enforcement agencies to hold individuals in custody for up to 48 hours. And this is not necessarily for people who have a final order of removal, as Republicans on the other side stated during the Kristi Noem hearing yesterday. In fact, that's often not the case at all. Detainers have been issued for U.S. citizens, including one U.S. citizen who was detained for 1,273 days. Ultimately, adopting welcoming policies and refusing to comply with detainers protects local law enforcement from being held liable for unlawful arrests and detention. Immigration enforcement is the job of the federal government, not states, not cities, not localities. There are many reasons that law enforcement themselves choose not to enforce immigration law. In 2019, my home state of Washington passed the Keep Washington Working Act with bipartisan support. It is a common sense law to ensure that local police remain focused on public safety rather than enforcing federal immigration law. We know that when local police act as immigration agents, immigrant communities and their families are much less likely to come forward to report a crime when they are a witness or even a victim. It destroys the trust that police rely on to preserve public safety in communities. And courts have ruled multiple times that states have the right to enact laws like Keep Washington Working Act. Our law does allow information sharing with the federal government when necessary for an ongoing criminal investigation or pursuant to a court order or a judicial warrant. That is how we as a state decided to handle immigration enforcement, because we wanted to ensure that our limited resources went to protecting our citizens, not rounding up students, fathers, mothers, kids, and law-abiding community members. And I fully support my state's effort to ensure that everyone in our state follows our law. Now, we're not alone. Many states like California, New Jersey, Oregon, Illinois, and Colorado have made similar choices. And I would like to point out that no law enforcement organizations support this legislation. That is because organizations like the Major Cities Chiefs Association has repeatedly reaffirmed that across the country, if law enforcement officers are viewed by members of the immigrant community as colluding or working with immigration law enforcement officers, this would result in increased crime against this is a quote, result in increased crime against immigrants in the broader community, create a class of silent victims, and eliminate the potential for assistance from immigrants in solving crimes or preventing future terroristic attacks. Now, we already have a problem with how people are seeing ICE and CBP in this country. There is very little support across the country for what this administration is doing. Now you want to make it worse by forcing local jurisdictions and states to enforce federal immigration laws that honestly bring liability on local police departments. That's why so many local police departments don't want to do this, because they don't want to absorb the liability that exists. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to emphasize that all this bill does is to make sure that local jurisdictions cannot shield the truly bad hombres from deportation who need to be deported. They have no business in our country. Zero. I'm an old sheriff. I'm with you all. This right here is what I mean by bad hombres, right? Here we have a few that ICE picked up in and around my district. Jose from Mexico, arrested Harris County, practiced dentistry without a license, sexually assaulted one of his patients. This guy right here. Juan from Mexico, arrested in my county, Fort Bend County, indecency with a child. There he is. Jose, he's from Ecuador, arrested in Katy, Texas, assault and larceny. Juan Garcia, Mexico, arrested in Harris County, assault on a family member by strangulation. Would you like to have him in your family? Look at this guy. Carlos from Honduras, arrested in Harris County, sexual assault of a child. We know the Republican Party, we want to protect the American people. That's what Donald Trump wants to do, protect the American people from these bad hombres. They want to let them in. It's quite clear. We know who wants to let these guys in. Fang Lee from Vietnam, arrested in Katy. A lot of forgery. You sheriffs know what I'm talking about, dealing with all the forgery we have. Anyone that does not support this bill thinks these types of people, these individuals, should be allowed to remain in our country and continue to prey on the American people. It is stupidity at its core. Donald Trump now has to clean up the mess. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from Georgia is recognized.
The reason why they push back because the outrage and the big deal that Donald Trump is making over these undocumented people is not proportionate to how many people actually have crime. That's the problem that we have. That's the problem that I have. You have 9 undocumented people and maybe one may be a criminal. I don't know. I doubt it's very small. I doubt that percentage is right. and you demonize all 9 of those or 10 of those people. You don't just demonize, you don't just root out the one bad person. You demonize all of them. You paint them all with the same brush. That's the problem that I have. That's the problem I have with this policy. Nobody's bitching about deportation. Nobody's bitching about that. What we're saying is you're demonizing everybody when everybody is not a criminal. That's the problem we have. That's the problem Democrats have. And you keep saying they want to leave the borders open. What makes your dumbass think the border is closed?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if we're ready to have an amendment at the desk. So,
Who seeks recognition? The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, we had a committee meeting. We had Kristi Noem sitting right down there. Behind her were all these people who had family members who had been killed by illegal immigrants, I guess. And I expressed my sorrow for what they went through. I don't think anybody else on this dais did that. They might have, but I did, because I thought they were here and we ought to express our sorrow and show that they're here and we recognize them. And then I said, and I don't know exactly because I haven't gone back to look at it, I said that they were just as likely or more likely to have their family members attacked or killed by a person who was born in America and an American citizen, because the facts show that immigrants, illegal immigrants, commit less crime than people born in America. That's a justice report from 2024 and a newspaper report that I had for my city and my state.
But you can't tell these MAGA nuts nothing. You can't tell them that they commit way less crime than regular, normal, everyday, average dude. You can't tell them that. You tell them that, and the facts make their head explode. It's lost. They saying Jasmine lost because of Latino voters. She might have lost because of Latino voters. I mean, you know, people, there's a lot of people on this planet that they have not unpacked the fact that they're racist. Not racist, but they haven't unpacked the fact that when they see somebody black, they think bad, or they think criminal, or they think negative thoughts. A lot of people haven't faced that. And a lot of Hispanic people haven't faced that. So it is what it is. That's why. I'm not saying they did or they didn't. I'm not saying. She's more qualified than Talarico. I got a feeling, I don't know. I got a feeling that Talarico gonna lose in the general because he's a milquetoast, middle average, nothing to stand out white boy. He has nothing that makes him stand out. He has nothing to make him stand out. And Paxton has something that makes him stand out. And Cornyn has something to make him stand out. And he's going to go against Cornyn, and he's going to go against Paxton, and he's going to lose because he's a milquetoast Republican. He's a milquetoast Democrat. He has nothing that's interesting about him. So it's just and Texas don't go, and Texas is Republican. Hispanics are Republican. Hispanics are still under the guise of they're being close to being white. So they see somebody that's familiar to them, and so they're going to vote for that person. Not necessarily that they're racist. It's just that that's the way it is. When you're white, you want to feel close to being white people. When you're black, you want to be close to being close to black people. So it just is what it is. And they see Talarico as white. They see themselves as sort of white, but they don't see themselves as black. So they're going to go with the candidate that they feel most comfortable with. Not that that's racist. It's just that you feel more comfortable with somebody that look like you. That's it. It is what it is. Okay. They just feel they just closer to somebody that's white. That's all. Nothing new.
They commit less crime.
And by picking that white dude, you don't have anything. By picking that white dude, it's cool. He's a Democrat. Hey, I support him. He's a Democrat. But by picking that white dude, you're going to He has nothing to be outstanding about. There's nothing outstanding about him. So as long as there's nothing outstanding about him, and he's kind of milquetoasty, average white dude, there's nothing to stand out about him compared to Paxton and compared to Cornyn, he's going to lose, or I got a feeling he's going to lose because of that. And most, like I said, Hispanics are Republican, and they normally go for the Republican. 2 white guys, I'm going to pick the Republican. So Talarico going to be fucked up. So it is what it is. It is what it is.
That was all. And then the Department of Homeland Security has the front page, a story about me suggesting I did something terrible for these people because Kristi Noem interpreted it that way. I didn't talk about her killing her dog.
Sure.
Which was awful and an indication of her behavior. I didn't talk about the fact that she hasn't had investigations from the people who killed Mr. Pretty or Miss Good. No investigation. She says, oh, the FBI's doing it. You know, she should have done it. Law enforcement should have their own people do it. They should have an internal affairs department.
And that's the problem. It should not be DEI. But see, y'all don't get the concept of the fact that just because you don't pick somebody black, that the black person is less smarter than the mediocre white guy. So now all the mediocre white guys are going to rise to the top because you threw away the DEI. So now we're going to have mediocre white guys. That's the way it is. You throw away the talent, you throw away the smart Hispanic woman, or you throw away the smart black woman, or you throw away the smart black man, you get mediocre white guy that rises to the top. So it is what it is. And that's not racist at all. It's just, it is what it is.
It was ridiculous. Then I got back to my office yesterday afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and I had a Baptist minister from Memphis, one of the most respected Baptist ministers in Memphis in my office, letting me know that 2 Afghans in Memphis who have done nothing wrong and are members of his church and are Christians have been picked up by ICE. One man was picked up. He'd done nothing wrong. He'd been in the country for many years.
Wild.
He'd been an interpreter for our troops.
It's racist. It's racist. Are you people nuts? Are you people nuts? You come into the chat and you say no more DEI as though nobody earned their spot. As though if you pick a black person or you pick a Hispanic person, they don't earn a spot. No more DEI means no more black person because the black person or the Hispanic person is not qualified. And you say, I'm racist? That's just dumb as hell. When you say, because most of y'all don't even understand what the fuck you're saying. You don't even understand. When you say no more DEI, you basically mean no Hispanic, no black. And that's racist as hell. What the fuck are you talking about? I can't with you dumb
Troops in Afghanistan.
I can't.
And they took him to the airport and had him call his wife and bring their children to the airport with her to be with him. And they did that, and they flew them to Billy, Texas, where they're currently being held. 4 Afghan Christians, and they were taken with no criminal offenses that they'd committed. They came in this country legally. Now, our president irrationally asked all Afghans to be sent out of this country no matter what they did for our troops after one crazy Afghan killed a reservist here. That was terrible, but there was no reason to take every Afghan who's been in this country legally and had helped us as interpreters and send them back to Afghanistan where they'd be killed. I don't know where they're going to send them. And then another person, an individual who's a member of his church, young man, picked up, sent to Louisiana, and they wanted to deport him to Brazil. There are reasons why cities don't want to cooperate with ICE. ICE has become and is.
They just mad. The motherfuckers in the chat just mad because they don't like what I'm saying. They don't like what I'm saying. They don't want to be considered racist. They think they're just woke. They think they're woke and they're not racist. When you say no more DEI, that means no more Black person, Hispanic person, woman. So that only leaves mediocre, regular white guys. That's all that means. If you say no more DEI, that means only mediocre white guys, because that's what that means. If you eliminate DEI, hopefully you goofy get it. When you eliminate DEI, that means no women, no Hispanics, no Black. That's what that means. And then that leaves only mediocre white guys. That's wild. That's just wild. That's exactly what that means. That's exactly what that means.
Recognized as the worst agency in this government. They have no respect for citizens. They do not act like law enforcement. Law enforcement acts with regard for people and to serve you. They wear badges. They have their names on their uniforms. They don't have masks on, and they don't just.
No, it doesn't mean it leaves the most qualified. That's just wild. That's just wild. Because DEI meant that the Hispanic and the woman and the Black got into the room. When you don't have DEI, they don't get into the room. That's wild. This is the same with it. I can't.
Come up and break your window and pull you out. And they don't shoot you in the face or shoot you in the back 10 times when you've done nothing wrong, certainly nothing violent. But they did nothing wrong, Ms. Good or Ms. Preti, nothing that a law enforcement officer would kill them for, because they can only use deadly force under certain circumstances. ICE has gotten totally out of control, and this committee needs to deal with it. It's the most un-American committee a law enforcement type unit we've ever had. It's really not law enforcement, it's a paramilitary group. And if you look up the definition of paramilitary, which I did, that's what ICE is. We have a paramilitary group operating on our streets in America, taking people's rights away and treating them and killing them without any oversight. And absolutely, it's Ms. Noem's fault. She needs to be impeached. If she doesn't resign, she does need to be impeached, because she is a discredit to this government and to her president. It was said that she didn't fire the head of the counterintelligence group that deals with Iran. He was fired by the FBI, but they said she didn't fire him because Mr. Lewandowski said that would reflect poorly on her, who she hired him, if she fired him. Well, she reflects poorly on Donald Trump. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Imagine a convicted child rapist and self-admitted gang member released from prison because of sanctuary jurisdiction.
That means that people don't get into the room. That's what DEI is, to get a person into the room. They still do not get into the room. When you take DEI and affirmative action away, they don't get into the room. When you have DEI that casts a net for the most qualified, not just for the people that are right there in the room, I can't explain it. I can't explain. Everybody thinks it's race. How many of you retards know that only white women benefited from DEI? How many of you retards know that? Do you know that? Or am I speaking to my quiet? Do you know that women, white women are the ones who benefited from DEI? Do you know that, right? That's dumb.
Jurisdiction ignored a federal detainer, or a Trinidad suspect with a history of assaults and threats freed despite mandatory detention requirements, or an aggravated.
Oh shit. But it is what it is. But anyway, I'll be back later. I'll be back later with some more content. All of that good stuff. I'll be back. Y'all have a better argument for this shit. Really? Have a better argument for this shit.